Black Live, segment 2. Ryan Nuebert and Tom Dienhart. Brian joins us. Brian's cleaning his glasses and trying to stay warm. We appreciated Mike Babinski in segment 1. Very interesting stuff. If you missed that, we'll post. Now we're going to do a transcription of it as well, but we'll also have the show that will be up. Gordon and company will put it up. We'll have that as well. As you can look through all of the past shows on Gold and Black Live and the WLFI website. Brian, you obviously are very close to. You've been doing nothing this week. You've been to Nebraska, Athens, Ohio. You have dealt with ice storms. You had to drive back and get here in time for the press conference yesterday from Athens. Are you coherent enough to have an impression of what you heard and saw yesterday? I know you are, but what were your impressions?
Just make it all up. That's fine.
Okay.
My impressions of yesterday are, Purdue signed another good class. This was, Purdue's. I don't know if this was anything better than the 2 classes that came before it, but it was a continuation of the quality of the classes they've been able to sign. Purdue is on an unbelievable run here, getting high-end offensive talent, especially. And what they got at wide receiver, they're just stacking blue chip wide receivers on top of blue chip wide receivers. That speaks to the magnetism of their offensive reputation, of the coaches involved in recruiting them, that when you have young established players at certain positions for extended periods of time, as Purdue does at wide receiver, that is supposed to be an obstacle in recruiting because guys want to come in and play right away. There's only one football. Wide receiver is subject to that more than anybody, that there's only one football. Yet Purdue keeps getting these wide receivers to keep joining the program. They signed 4 really good ones last year. They signed a couple really good ones the year before that. They are absolutely loaded at wide receiver. You'd like to see, things maybe go to another level on the lines, the defensive line and the offensive line. And I'm saying that a year after Purdue signed George Karlaftis, who was elite. You would have liked to have seen things at linebacker, maybe get maybe an impact guy or 2, but by and large, top to bottom, this seems like a really talented class. But the story's not told because Purdue's going to have to go out and get some grad transfers. These JUCOs are going to have to pan out. The story of this class is going to be told more in how it helps them right away because Purdue's got some real important voids on this roster next year that have to be covered up, and that process remains ongoing.
Yeah, 9 players coming early, Brian. You've been covering Purdue recruiting for a long time. Do you ever recall, even go back to the Tiller era, that many guys coming mid-semester?
It used to just be the JUCOs and the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because the quarterbacks are kind of nerds, and they always wanted to get the head start on the playbook, and the JUCOs obviously graduated from junior college. You can do it. I don't know when it was exactly, but it became much more mainstream a while back, and now it seems like everybody's doing it. And this class obviously reflects that. Kids are ambitious nowadays. They want to get on the field. That is the single biggest. Every kid's different, but by and large, generally speaking, early opportunity and the NFL loom really large over recruiting. And those 2 things go hand in hand. And when you're recruiting really high-end kids, they want to get going right away. They want to be on the field right away, and they want to be in the NFL largely as fast as they can. Purdue is now playing in that sandbox where Purdue is recruiting kids that credibly think that way because they are talented enough to think that way. And I'm not saying these 9 guys are all only doing it because they want to go to the NFL. Some of them are. A couple of them are junior college players, but that's kind of the football recruiting landscape nowadays. These guys are getting out sooner because they want to get on the field right away. And, Purdue's got a good track record of getting guys on the field right away. Freshmen having success. These guys all bought into it, and it's part of the reason why they're doing it.
And I'll ask this question to both of you. I'll start with Brian, though. One of the senses I got from yesterday watching the press conference, it's obvious, you want to win now, too. You want to get this turned around, and you have an opportunity with Lorenzo Neal coming back, Rondale Moore assuming and he should be 100% healthy. The time may be now next year. Is that any part of this 9 guys as well?
Probably not the 9 guys who signed yesterday. Some of them, sure. But that's more a matter of the guys to come. Purdue's going to have to sign some graduate transfers on the offensive line. The 2 junior college players who signed yesterday, absolutely. DeMarcus Mitchell, Giamante Howard at linebacker and cornerback respectively. Purdue has important needs there. But Purdue's got to sign at least one graduate transfer offensive lineman, one would think, and Purdue's got to find a quarterback. Purdue's got to get some clarity at quarterback. Whether that's a graduate transfer, whether that's a really high-end freshman, Malik Hornsby being a possibility, Purdue needs to know who its quarterback is. Ideally, you've got a very real possibility you have 1 year of Rondell Moore and David Bell together. You don't want that to get undervalued by questions at quarterback.
Tommy, what's your take on that part of it, just in terms of the urgency? It's obviously, it's not next year or bust, but it's an extremely important season.
Oh, yeah, it's year 4, coming off a 4-8 season. I think you'd like to get back in the bowl business in 2020. So it's a big year. I think there's a lot of pieces in place. Brian talked about them. I think the number 1 defensive line could be very good if everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
If you've got Anthony Watts next to Lorenzo Neal, and you've got Barnes and Karlaftis on your ends, that's pretty good. Brian talked about linebacker. The Mitchell kid's going to help, but there's a huge need there. I would think you would really want to get some type of a grad transfer linebacker if you could. You could probably guarantee an immediate starting opportunity. I don't know about Brian and what he thinks of this, but I think I would maybe even still take another defensive tackle, even though I like the 2 starters. An offensive line, Brian talked about as well. Maybe the need to get some veterans up there. And we talked about the 9 guys coming in. One of them's not the quarterback. Michael Amo is not coming in, which is kind of odd.
His high school doesn't allow.
His high school does not allow, but you've got 3 of the wide receivers are coming in.
Right.
A couple offensive linemen are coming in as well, the junior college transfer. So there's going to be a lot to work with, and, I think they see some opportunity there.
Yeah, Brian.
Just to follow up on what I said about the quarterbacks earlier, I know Aiden O'Connell won some games for Purdue. I know Jack Plummer is still a guy they feel pretty good about, I would think. But just you don't know who your guy is because things would seem relatively open. I know in a perfect world, Aiden O'Connell has done some really positive things for you. Gave you a hell of an ending to the season in some ways, winning those back-to-back games against Nebraska and Northwestern. You'd probably like a guy with a little bit more physical talent, a little bit more athleticism. Jack Plummer, obviously coming off the ankle surgery, there's no reason to think he won't be 100%, but you don't know who your guy is in the spring. It makes sense to bring in a guy, at the very least, to add another contender for the job. If you can get a guy who's proven, who's started, who's won games at a high level, to enter that mix, that might be the way they go, too. But obviously, you would like some certainty at quarterback, given the skill position talent you have here.
I guess I still wonder, Jeff talked about this yesterday too, if you're a high-end quarterback in the transfer portal, you're going to want to go to the place with the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you look at Purdue's depth chart, I'm not saying Jack Plummer and Aiden O'Connell are 100% proven commodities, but they played, they've got some resume to them, you got to consider them favorites. Is that an ideal situation you would want to walk into as a transfer or not?
Well, that's up to the coaches to handle. That's up to the coaches to, as Jeff Brom said yesterday, to be honest with them. Now, what his version of honesty in this situation would be, we don't know. In the past, he had Elijah Sindelar coming back, so when Hunter Johnson's talking about maybe transfer to Purdue, Jeff Brom says, okay, but I've got this guy, and you're going to have to beat him out. It wasn't, it's your job. Now, does he go to these graduate transfers, whoever it may be out there, and say, this is your job? Or does he say, we really like Aiden O'Connell, we really like Jack Plummer, you're one of 3 guys? That's up for him to decide. My guess is he would probably be a little bit more welcoming in his approach to the transfer market this time and say, look, we've got guys we like, but we need a guy we love right now. We've got this, I don't know if he'd communicate it this way, but I am. We've got this window here. We just didn't have the season we wanted to have. We've got unbelievable weapons on offense. This is a golden opportunity for you to come in and start right away. Have a great year throwing the ball to Rondell Moore and David Bell, and kind of go from there.
You could do a lot worse. No question if you're thinking about coming to Purdue from that standpoint. All right, we're going to take a short break, and we'll kick Tom out. We aren't going to kick him out. We are going to just bring a little segment with Brian and I, talk some men's basketball as well. A lot going on. Touched on a little bit with Mike Babinski, but interesting. Going to be an interesting, not only Big Ten season, but I think an interesting next 10 days for Purdue basketball as well as that story evolves. We'll take a short break. We'll see you in a couple minutes on Gold and Black Live.